Well, this afternoon, the North Tongue Member of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, is asking Parliament to take a firm decision on MPs who absent themselves from parliamentary duty beyond the constitutional 15-day threshold. 3 MPs as we speak, including the Dome Kobenya MP Sarah Jasafo, have allegedly absented themselves for 15 parliamentary sitting days. According to the North Tongue MP, a petition by some well-meaning Ghanaians should engage the attention of the House. Earlier this week, the North Tongue MP himself told me that Parliament must nip the unhealthy practice of absenteeism in the bud, and we will be joined shortly by Parker Wilson. But first, take a listen to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa speak to us earlier on the polls.
Some of them will have gotten away with it if we didn't do the research. We should have a way as an institution to detect these matters and to make sure that we sanction those who are errant, who just come for the position and have no, if you like, interest in carrying out their work.
How far, and we need to go, but how far with the investigations on the claims of impersonation by someone who we are yet to identify, who claims to be Sarah Ajasafo, who showed up on the floor of the House? You claim that you have some evidence leading to the fact that there was an imposter in the House. How far with that investigation?
I did say, to be more accurate, precision,
right,
that we will investigate. We have cause to initiate investigations into the matter because it's a serious matter. Not only as a lot of Ghanaians, it was a trend in social media. People were like, no, that's not the Honorable Ajasafo we know. As responsible members of Parliament, as particularly when the numbers are so critical, our image is at stake. And these are matters that even border on criminality. I said that we will investigate. We are not going to let it slide. Now, the investigations have been conducted. The decision is that leadership of our caucus will put out.
So that means you've concluded the investigation?
Yes, we have. And
Ajasafo was impersonated?
The decision by our caucus is that the leadership.
Why are you withholding that information? Because at least we know you're very much concerned about that. Why are you concealing that information? Was Sarah Jasafo impersonated?
My brother is finding a clever way of... We are not withholding or denying the good people of this country the outcome of the investigations. We have said that in politics, timing is important. The leadership of our caucus, led by the outstanding, indefatigable, Honorable Haruna Idriso, at the most opportune and strategic time, will put out the outcome of the investigation.
But you're certain it wasn't Sarah Ajasafo?
What I am certain about for this interviewing,
how the process was going, and some pieces of information that was leading you somewhere. What is the conclusion of that?
Since you want to know about confidence levels, I am very, very confident that we would not hide this matter. We would not shelve it. We would not leave it as a matter that is one of those that is allowed to gather dust. I'm confident that very soon, sooner than later, the leadership of our caucus will put out the outcome of the investigations. I'm very confident.
Was that her sister as reported on social media?
I am extremely confident that very soon we will put out the details.
Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa is ranking member on Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. Well, so that was actually earlier this week when we spoke to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, but there's a lot of developments in Parliament as we speak. In fact, research fellow at the civil society organization Odikro, Professor Kojo Kantanka, says the Constitution is actually supreme and Parliament would have to adjust its standing orders. His comments come in the wake of the recent Supreme Court ruling.
Parliament itself knows that the standing orders have some problems and they need to be reviewed. So they are on air. And
it's taken a pretty long time, hasn't it? It's taken a pretty...
Some way for us to take a critical look because of the nature of this current Parliament. Perhaps if we had done it earlier and we had come to this Parliament, would have been another issue altogether. Review of the standing orders. Of course, we shouldn't forget that The Constitution is the supreme law. And any other law that is inconsistent with it will be not that 9 is inconsistent with the Constitution. That's Article 104. And that's the reason. And I'm happy about the argument that Professor Azar provides. And that should actually tell us the fact that there are disagreements over the interpretations of the standing orders and then of Article 104. And that is the same reason for which we should always go to the Supreme Court if there's that kind of argument.
But isn't it curious? Isn't it curious? Because these standing orders were basically lifted from the 1992 Constitution. Then maybe to stretch it further, we need to, and I know we've had the constitutional targeting is the 1992 Constitution, isn't it?
Yes, I remember Professor Mills set up a constitutional review. Is it a committee or commission? They did the work. We haven't heard anything. What happened? Was there a white paper? I don't know. So that process kick-started during President Mills' time. What have you been able to do? Over the years, you know, there are provisions in the Constitution that favor governments. So sometimes when people are in power, they are happy to work with the Constitution. Because if favor president, one person controls everything in this country.
Well, we can now take you to the Western region. A total of 6 persons, including a 15-month-old baby who died at a PAT following the explosion over a month ago, are being buried today at a mass burial service underway at a PAT on January 12th this year. A truck transporting mining explosives collided with a motorcycle at the Takwa Bogoso Yenfuri Road. Of that explosion, 13 people lost their lives, including a 15-month-old baby. Now, dozens of family members have been displaced since the incident and aggravated. Now, social-economic challenges as well are there, but we can now get more from Adom FM's Lord Tevia, who's monitoring today's burial services for us and joins us on the telephone lines. Now, I can imagine there'll be a lot of grief in the area, but Tevia, what more can you tell us about the situation on the grounds as we speak? Yes, Tevia, I'm asking about the situation at a PAT as we speak.
At the moment, the out of the explosion has been linked in West this afternoon. And lots of residents from far and near this location, including the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Owusu Bio, and the Minerals Commissioner, Boss Chairman, Lawyer Barbara Otinjesi, including the Member of Parliament for the place, the DC for the area, Dr. Azidas, were all part of the ceremony this morning.
We know that some government officials were also there today. What more have they been saying at the funeral ground?
During a speech by the Deputy Minister, he said a government shares in the pain of the people of Afieti, and within the next 12 months ahead of the government is going to ensure that the Afieti community is rebuilt to a modern standard, which will even serve as a choice attraction for visitors to go to Afieti to have a look at it. The Reverend Minister for the Roman Catholic Church of Bogoso, Reverend Idro, also delivering his sermon on the theme preparing for God's call, called on the people of residents to give thanks to God for in every situation. We should give thanks to God. He made us know that what would have happened if the incident had happened early in the morning or midnight. The whole people at PAT would have been disaster. So therefore, they should give thanks to God for all that He has done. So it's painful to depart from a loved one, but in every situation, to give thanks to God. The ceremony continues on Sunday with a Thanksgiving service at the PAT Group Park. Then the final funeral will be held at the relief camp.
And I'm grateful to you. Let's bring in Dr. Isaac Tasamani, who is the DC for the area. Isaac Tasamani joining us now. Thank you, sir, for your time. You were at the funeral grounds yourself. How are you feeling today? Having to relive this whole experience, just as the people of a piety.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, sir. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me greet your listeners and your panel members. As you were saying, yesterday we put all the 7 people who were left and this in there. That is who were actually here from Apiati municipalities, executives from the region. They all came to support. And the clergy were also there in their numbers, and the people of Bogoso, all the surroundings were there this morning to cheer our brothers or to bid farewell to our brothers who unfortunately lost their lives during the tragedy.
So now that the burial is done with, we know that those who are in the community as well are having to restart life. You have made some promises to them, at least for now they are temporary shelters. How far with plans to reconstruct the community and to bring
for
life
now,
to
the
normalcy?
reconstruction committee has been constituted, which Honorable Benito View is the chair. And they have started all the geological work, the planning scheme and all of that. All those who are on the field testing the soil and all of other important things that they need to do, and they look at the structural test and see some of the structures that can be left out, those that we need to destroy. They are also on the field. And apart from that, there is an uncompleted building that was given to us by FGR that we are also working to roof them, because in this area it rains a lot. And then sometimes when it rains, all the people are in the tent. Some of them are in the tent. And we want to give them a temporary shelter by roofing those uncompleted buildings and then keep. So as we speak to you, 20 buildings are open with the roof members. Now very soon we'll put the roof on top, and then we'll share it for them to also stay in temporarily whilst the reconstruction will also do their work and start the reconstruction.
Right. And for the families of the victims, is there any consideration of compensation for them?
That one is not within my my own is just to ensure that the people are fine. And then when it comes to compensation, then purely, I don't know, it's purely civil issue or whatever. That one, I'm sure it's not on my table now.
Right. For now, what can you say about the status of relief and aid that's being sent into the community?
We have Lion also. We are there with a lot of food items, rice, and then some other meat, and then really by then we have received a lot that can keep them for some time. But now, what is now worrying us is the hospitals that they are attending, because some of them are still going for reviews, and then when they come with some bills that we pay and all of that, that's a challenge that we are going through now. And then secondly, because the incident happened and they come, we need to get a bus to carry them to school, and that cost us almost 500 Ghana a day. So it's not sustainable over time. So possibly we may appeal to some other organizations.
Right, but let's get clarity. Let's get clarity on the point you're making now. Is it the case that you don't have enough medics available to take care of these persons?
No, we have. But some of them, the degree of their injuries, they were sent to Kokukwashi, and sometimes the doctor will give them some time, because they will ask you to come for review and all of that. Some people too, they have some leg surgeries, and then so maybe when they discharge them, they will tell them to come for review, maybe a week or 2 weeks. Probably they will be in the house of the doctor until maybe they get better. So those are the issues that we are dealing with now, so that when they are going, you need to give them something to go. And when they come with some bills we need to support them.
And as an interim measure, how are you making up for the 500 cedis a day and other ancillary matters that are coming up in terms of damages?
We are just managing with people giving us some small receipt that we created account that we put it in. And that's what I'm saying, that for now the situation is not that critical. But some of these things are not sustainable within some few months. I'm only hoping that especially those children that we carry them.
Some say this shouldn't have been a problem, particularly as we know that the Apieti Support Fund has been commissioned by the President. What has been the level of help from this committee? And would you say that help is sufficient?
Yeah, you know, the support fund, basically, most of them is going into the construction, the construction stage. And then sometimes, when we have some bills, we submit it for them to also give us something to pay that. So we have that link that we are negotiating. We are contacting them almost now and then. But you know, sometimes some of these things, you know, immediately when they come, you need to get it to them before you put them together, and then you apply with them. Maybe really
So how soon would you want them to come through with help and support?
Oh, I've been getting in touch with Honorable Benito, the minister himself, and then the minister side. Keep on, taking care of them until they get better.
All right then. I'm grateful, Isaac Desamene is MC for the Pristia Huni Valley. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Now we can take you to some other stories. Residents of Odumasi in the Nkwanta South municipality of the Oti region are now relieved from decades of dependence on an wholesome river that actually runs in the area. They say that the absence of potable water has led to the spousal misunderstandings in the community, as meals were not prepared on time for the family. The situation, they say, has also affected the enrollment and retention in school, as basic school pupils would have to trek longer hours for water before the system for over 4,700 residents. Peter Seno has more in the following report.
Looked clean today, but often gets contaminated during the rainy season. Residents of Odumasi have survived by this river over the past decades, which they say has led to the contraction of waterborne diseases and spousal misunderstanding. Getting access to potable water was a great challenge to us because we get waterborne diseases such as guinea worm from the stream, and during the dry season we have to dig wells before we get water. Our children also do not take their bath before they go to school, and sometimes the teachers sack them for being smelly.
For the past years, water situation was not fair at all. If they want water to fetch and bath to school, they always go to school lately. It will take them a long time to go to the stream and fetch water. And if you don't come from farm earlier, you find it difficult to get water to come and cook and bath. So formerly where there was no water, so many problems.
Now the situation is a different one, as World Vision Ghana has led the charge to provide a 40,000 litre capacity water system to cater for the needs for over 4,700 residents in the area. Joshua Bedu is the regional operations manager for World Vision Ghana.
You know, it's estimated that this facility will serve 4,700 indigents in this area. As you can see at my back, this is a 40,000 capacity poly tank, and we have 6 water points located. Community members have potable water for their use at home and for drinking, and it's also to ensure that we cut down on diseases, because once they are going to drink potable water, the expectation is that they are going to have fullness of life.
Bafo Otubuatin is the board chair for World Vision Ghana. He tells JoyNews why they took the initiative to support the community.
Our mission is to bring life in all its fullness to all the vulnerable children of the world. In the Odumasi community, before this mechanized water system was inaugurated, the community had spells of guinea worm. There were children who were unable to go to school. There were lots of diseases that affected the quality of life. And for us at World Vision, it's important that we bring life in all its fullness to this community. They embraced us as partners, and we work together with them to put up this mechanized water system. It is one that is solar powered, and it is one that touches on one of the things that we care about, which is sustainability.
Residents say the provision of the water system.
And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has observed a threat to the future of mining of granite deposits, as quarry sites in the Ashanti region are encroached by private developers. The local assembly says it's becoming increasingly difficult to mine the resource. Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister George Mrekuduka says structures found to have actually breached any laws will face demolition without compensation to their owners. Love FM's Erastus Asari Donko has more in the following report.
Large granite stone deposits create an imposing skyline visible across towns in Efija Quarry South and Quarry East districts. The resource, high in demand by estate developers, is a revenue cash cow for these communities. But constant building close to the quarry sites is making it difficult to mine. So, like a chicken and egg situation, residents here at Nkukwashi, Afrancho, Krobogetim, and others say they came to meet the rocks without the quarry institutions. They say they got the license and bought the land with a 500-meter buffer zone to be able to mine. And so these people are encroaching at the quarry mine sites. Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, George Mrekuduka, went on a fact-finding tour of the quarry sites to find solution to the problem. At Efija Quarry South, DCE Christian Edupoku told the minister continuous encroachment of the quarry sites will deny the assembly of badly needed revenue for development.
5 cities per cubic meter of every load that goes away from Efija Quarry South. Out of the 5 cities, there were 1 city a bar assembly direct as business operating permit (BOP). Now 1 city Quarry Association, to help them develop themselves. 3 cities now can development projects.
George Mrekuduka called for investigations into developments close to the quarry sites. He said structures found to be illegal will be demolished.
If I have my concession that has been legally secured and you come and build in the concession,
some of the developers told our news team traditional authorities who sold the lands to them failed to indicate they were within buffer zones.
Inside the wing and a paisa. Into minne, Yakase be a mame, Yamao Hakutu, Quatanaha, and a mame, Yetiaka Quatanaha mini problem.
There are plans to resettle some of the people here to pave way for the mining of this natural resource, which is needed in all sectors of development across the country. Until then, the situation remains the people, the rocks, and the quarry mines. Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asari Donko, Efija Quarry, Ashanti region.
Thanks for staying with us here on the polls. Still to come, Ghana Revenue Authority tax to collect a revenue target of 80.3 billion Ghana cedis for 2022. But how does the state agency intend to meet its target? We find out shortly. And you're welcome back to the polls. The Ghana Revenue Authority has been tasked to collect a revenue target of 80.2 billion Ghana cedis for 2022. Now, last year, the authority actually exceeded its revenue target and hopes to again meet the 2022 target in spite of the significant leap in the target from that of 2021. Now, as we speak, government is actually in a dire need for revenue due to the tight fiscal space, and it is estimated that less than 12% of Ghana's population pay income tax, a situation which raises questions about how the Ghana Revenue Authority intends to meet this target. But what you have on your screens now are excerpts from the 2022 budget. Government is actually targeting to raise some 100.5 billion. It is out of that, 80.2 is where the focus is, the tax revenue aspect. But fortunately, there's a breakdown that's coming through on all of this for us. Joining me in studio now is Dominic Nab. He is the Assistant Commissioner General's at the Commissioner General's office of GRA. He will be breaking down all of this to us. Such a nice time to be having you in studio. Welcome, sir, to the Pulse.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's good to see you. And I must first of all congratulate you, the GRA, for meeting last year's target. That was happening in spite of, I guess, COVID and some other issues as well that was confronting you in terms of challenge. But what strategies did you really use in achieving your target for last year?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start by saying hi to your viewers and to also say that, yes, we achieved last year's target. We owe this to our taxpayers and to Ghanaians at large. Yes, for us in GRA, our mandate is to collect taxes, as you know. So what we do is to try and put our house in order, and that was exactly what we did. I would look at it from several angles. The first has to do with the fact that there was efficient, supervision from the Ministry of Finance, the GRA board, the top management, as well as all leaders, within the GRA structure. They all did so well. That apart, what we did was just to also look at our internal processes, how to enhance, efficiencies within GRA to be able to actually raise the revenue, which we did. Then we also employed deliberate, policy interventions, which actually, helped. You realize that the Ghana Revenue Authority has gone cashless. What it means is that we don't collect cash in our offices. Hitherto, we're collecting cash, checks, and what have you. Right. To be frank with you, we had a lot of bounce checks, dark checks. Are you getting it? So by
from the business.
Exactly.
Right.
They were issuing checks, and sometimes they were not honored by the banks. That tells you clearly that that initiative actually helped, because the point is that go and pay the money, at the bank. If there's a problem, then clearly your checks, your money is not paid. Right. But when they were bringing the checks to us, we had those problems. Again, we also wanted to enhance some comfort and convenience for our taxpayers. So what we did was we also went online, filing, which you are aware. So taxpayers are not supposed to now come to GRA offices.
Right. So you don't have to be physically present.
You don't have to. Right. Just at the convenience of your offices or home, just file, and then you can also do the payment online via Momo and what have you. Right. So these are the things that actually helped, And then again, we had this amnesty. That is where taxpayers who actually had problems paying their taxes as a result of COVID-19. Is that okay? So what it was that the government, introduced this penalty and interest, waiver. Pay your principal, outstanding taxes, and then you'll be forgiven of your penalty and interest. Right. That has to do with taxes which were owed up to 2020. As we speak now, that dispensation has been extended up to 30th June 2022. So these are the things that actually, helped. Again, we also established what we call the customer experience, unit, customer experience unit. Trust me, taxation is no longer trying to use brute force to collect revenue, but you need to actually also allow the taxpayers to feel part of the system. So that unit, being headed by Dr. Brago, has actually done well to even sensitize staff within GRA to know that, look, we need to be very tactful and diplomatic approaching taxpayers. Right. You get it. And that also actually did the trick.
So these are some of the strategies that you deployed for the previous year. Exactly. And you're hoping to achieve your target this year.
Exactly.
One of the greatest moves that you picked on was about the digitalization of the process, how you are now moving the process and making it much more sophisticated, where you can just, at the comfort of your home, make payments, and then you get the reflection and get to certify all these organizations. Is this really part of that broad agenda by government to digitalize and to ensure that systems are more efficient at the GRA?
Yeah, thank you very much. Ghana plays a very big role in the ecosystem, and given that the government actually wants to go cashless, GRA has a contribution to make. And apart from that, we are also looking at ensuring that we are able to secure, the revenue. So for us, yes, the way to go is actually to automate our systems. So that is what we have done. I'm not saying that it is done yet. Right. It's just a process.
Okay, this is just a start of
exactly.
Right? A beginning of a greater process that
yes,
you'll be rolling out. So there are a number of activities that you would use to enhance the digitalization drive.
Exactly.
That's what you'll be doing. But at the start of this month as well, we know that there was a review of a major policy, the benchmark policy and on discounts and all of that. How has been the implementation? What would you say has been your assessment of that policy? We know that business community has also raised some concerns, but from the assessment so far, ever since it took effect, what would you say has been the GRA's opinion on that?
Okay, thank you very much. Ghana belongs to a committee of risk management tool that is deployed, internationally to try to actually independently authenticate the transactional values that are coming from outside the country, just to ensure that our revenue is protected. That is essentially what it is. Now, government has a mandate, to review policies as and when. So we saw a situation where there was a review, and then there has been a review. Yes, as far as I am concerned, and for us in GRA, I think that things have worked well. The review has been successfully rolled out. We knew that it was going to come, so we actually put our houses in order, and we have been able to achieve landmark, success in this area.
So it was successful, you mean?
Yes.
The fear at the start of it was that this was even going to affect your revenue targets. Has that been the case ever since?
Any policy that is rolled out may not necessarily be targeted at revenue. Government may look at other, areas as well to ensure that we are able to actually grow our economy. You get it? So from that angle, yes, I must say that I wouldn't want to say that it was only revenue government was looking at. As the conversation, goes on, you would even appreciate that even in some cases, government has actually suspended some taxes so that we can create some comfort, within our environment.
Okay, so the focus shouldn't just be about raising revenue, making much more money. That shouldn't be the focus.
Exactly.
Exactly. But you have a big target of 80.2 billion to raise. So the belief is that the review, instead of the cancellation, would have affected GRA.
No, what it means for us is that we should widen further, our tax net. That is what it means. So there's a challenge, for us in GRA. If for any reason, revenue, because we have a simple mandate to collect taxes to ensure that our economy is stabilized.
The policy review is not the only focus at GRA. You've also integrated your systems. We know of ICOMS and all of that. Are these systems being effective in generating the necessary revenue to avoid leakage, to avoid under declaration, and all of these activities that happen within the sector? Would you say that the integration of your system, ICOMS, has actually helped in that regard, that businesses bring the needed revenue? Is that happening?
Yes, it has helped so much. Yeah, prior to the introduction of these ICOMS, there was so much furore, from the importing public. And they were looking at the fact that it was going to inconvenience them and may not actually help them deliver. But I think that later events have actually proved to GRA, right, and then the government for that matter. So what it is that the ICOMS, that is the Integrated Custom Management System, has actually created or brought about higher efficiency, if you like. And two, it has also raised revenue. Hitherto, we have some challenges, when it comes to classification, valuation, and then, in one clearance. Is that okay? So what it means is that you can't actually see through if there are problems. Again, customers or importers can't also even pay their taxes even before the arrival of their goods. Is that okay? Right. And again, if there are problems with the assessment, they can raise objection and to be determined there and then, even before the goods come. Are you getting it? So you can't largely just say that the ICOM the outcomes, is indeed an effective tool that has actually helped the system. Again, given if you look at customs contribution prior to the introduction of ICAMS and after ICAMS, then I think that it has proven the case that indeed it has raised revenue in that case.
Just recently as well, we got indication that you've announced a significant date or timeline asking people to file their returns and also some issues relating to EVAT. That term has come up. Explain that term to us and what you were actually seeking to do with that particular order. Okay, thank you very much. When it comes to filing of tax returns, nothing has changed. In fact, it is by installment. Are required to pay not less than 4 months after the end of their business period. Right. So if your business period is January to December, then you have up to 30th of April. So what Commissioner General sought to do was just to send a reminder. You get it. As I said earlier, we are trying to actually create convenience for our taxpayers. So it was just a reminder to let them know that that is what it is. Again, Commissioner General has asked that all taxpayers who are in the large taxpayer office should file online. Others are also encouraged to do so because we have gone online. We don't want a situation where we want to be receiving, manual, assessment, tax returns, to work on. It's okay. We have come of age and we want to keep going and growing. We don't want a situation where we will actually be, declining. Exactly. Right. So that is that. Again, we also have realized that when it comes to the value-added tax, which is also a tax handle, there has been a drastic. Yes, there's a growth. But in terms of what actually we wanted to see, in terms of the revenue growth in VAT, actually we're not seeing that. Look at what we call the e-VAT, that is electronic VAT. So it's an electronic platform.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what it is that we are going to have, there are some taxpayers already who are using their own generated invoices. Are you getting it? So they are now going to go use the VAT, for their systems. What has occasioned this is that, one, there has been a lot of suppression of VAT income. And two, there has been also what we call VAT cloning. Okay. Are you getting it?
The platform is cloned or?
No, I'm talking about the VAT, the current system. The system. The current system as it is. Right. Others are able to duplicate our invoices and whatnot. Are you getting it? And what we call, using carding system and what have you. It hasn't actually helped, in terms of revenue mobilization from the VAT angle. So we have decided to actually automate, the system to ensure that VAT is generated electronically. So we can sit in our office and see real time how much you are collecting for us and how much you are supposed to actually account, for the VAT.
But how would this deal with the non-compliance aspect? Because you said part of the reasons why you're doing this is because of non-compliance, which you've witnessed at your side as well.
Yeah, when it comes to non-compliance, it doesn't take away the fact that we still have to keep working, hard. Are you getting it? The other bit has to do with the fact that once it's electronic, if you don't comply, we can see and we'll come at you. But if it is manually done, we have to actually visit your office, are you getting it, to look at it and then be able to make a determination. So that is what is going to happen.
So this platform has the ability to detect who's defaulting,
exactly,
who's not complying with the timeline.
Exactly. From April 1.
Okay.
I get it. But it doesn't mean that we are suspended. Exactly. Right. Okay. It doesn't mean that we are stopped collecting VAT. We are collecting VAT, but we are
that you are making it electronic.
Exactly.
So how different will the system be from the manual processes that?
Anything electronic. Right. Are you getting it? You can always investigate, interrogate. Are you getting it? Because it's system generated.
Right.
It's not something like manual where whatever figure that you want to actually put in, you would make that determination. Right. I'm not saying that is what every person is doing, but there are some who are doing that. And we also have fake invoices in the system. Are you getting it? So all these things will actually arrest all these malfeasances.
Right. The 2022 budget is here already. There are obviously new taxes and all of that, amendments and all of that. Have you started implementing or effecting some of these changes, the amendments or the new taxes?
We don't have any option. We have started. You see, when Parliament passes a law and it is with taxes, Commissioner General has ensured that they are all
So
out.
You have started rolling it out?
Yeah, we have.
Since late last year?
No, this year. I mean, they were passed last year, but they took effect from this year.
Why the delay in a way?
No, they were to take effect from this year.
Well,
But it was just to help us be able to understand the system and see how we can actually, ensure that we are able to roll them out efficiently and seamlessly.
If you look at the components and how much you need to meet in terms of your target, 80.3 billion, are we saying that these new amendments, these new taxes would aid the cause faster, or this is going to affect your operations as well?
Yeah, we are looking at it from several angles. Of course, as I said, when it comes to government policy, it is not all about revenue. Right. Let me just give you a few instances so that you can appreciate what I'm saying. There has been a review in the withholding tax when it comes to unprocessed gold. It used to be 3%. Yeah. In fact, it started from initially under the new law when it came, it was 10%. Government reduced it to 3%. It has been further reduced to 1.5. Now the question you ask is, if government wants 80.3 billion, why will you reduce such tax handle? Government wants to actually revive the small sector, mining sector. Yeah. Are you getting it? So everybody will get, engaged and would have something doing. Is that okay? And remember, when that happens, then we are going to get the income or the taxes in another form. You get it? Yeah. That is one. Number two, the textile, sector, for example, locally, manufactured textiles, in Ghana, has also been, in fact, government granted them what we call zero-rated regime. What it means is that they will charge VAT, but they will charge VAT at a rate of 0. Their input VAT that they pay will be claimed. So government wants to actually help them be able to create employment. Are you getting it? For the teeming, masses who are unemployed. When that happens, government can get the taxes through what we call their employment income tax. Are you getting it? So these are some of the things. So government, yes, will look at various ways to actually stimulate the growth of the economy. And that will also have some tax effect, as well.
The vehicle income tax, we know that some amendments were done to it. It appears that the collection was seized, actually. What's the position of the law now on that piece of legislation?
Yeah, you would agree with me that the COVID-19 actually has brought in this week some challenges, for the transport sector as well as other sectors as well. So what government did was that last year, the VAT, the vehicle income tax for second, third, and fourth quarter were suspended, meaning they shouldn't pay. Right. But there was a condition. The condition was that pay the first quarter. I get it. Right. And there are some other obligations that you needed to actually, do under the law. Make sure those ones are done before you can actually benefit from it. So the suspension was conditional. Then this year again, first quarter, second quarter, the suspension is still on. I get it. So at the end of the day, government is trying to actually create some comfort for the traveling public. Are you getting it? Yeah, as well as the owners of vehicles.
Right, and going forward, we know that you've done some waivers for businesses as well. Explain that to us further.
Yes, to be frank with you, the COVID-19 actually has brought some challenges for the business community, to the extent that, and the evidence is very clear, that some of them are unable to actually pay their taxes. So government has brought this one as a relief. Is that okay? For them to actually demonstrate, is that okay, that they are prepared to actually pay their principal. And then the interest and penalty, which actually come about as a result of not filing or not paying your taxes, to actually be waived. Is that okay? So when that happens, then it means that the person now has some cash flow to expand, their businesses. You get it? So that is what it is. So we expect that it is up to 30th of June, 2022. We expect that taxpayers should actually come in their numbers and take advantage of it. But let me also say that when it comes to VAT, there has been a change, and we need to actually dramatize that one. You see, hitherto, retailers and wholesalers were paying their taxes at the rate of 3%. That's what we call the VAT flat rate. But it has now changed. What the law says is that once your turnover exceeds 200,000, but it doesn't exceed 500,000, as a retailer, you would now pay tax at the rate of 3% as a VAT flat rate. But retailers whose turnover exceeds 500,000, they are now going to be on the standard rate. That is, they will charge VAT at a rate of 12.5%. Now, wholesalers, manufacturers, service providers will now be at 12.5. So these are the changes that have come as far as the VAT.
So your hope is that the businesses will come and pay on time. What happens to those who fail to honor the obligations?
The Commissioner General, I mean, you know, he's a pastor. And when it comes to issues of patience and, you know, long suffering, as the Bible will say, those virtues you can always attribute to them. He is not the type who wants to actually use the stick, but would rather would want to use the carrot to encourage. That is how come we are trying to actually ensure that our systems are improved so that taxpayers can, I mean, on their own, come and pay their taxes. But having said this, if for any reason, I mean, this dispensation is the waiver. You fail to take your waiver. Yeah. Then we now come, you know, asking you to pay and you don't want to pay. The system must run. Are you getting it? So we have a commitment. If you look at the Constitution, Article 41G, it says that as citizens, we have a responsibility to ensure that we pay our taxes to the right, you know, institution, and that is Ghana Revenue Authority. So if you don't pay after all this cajoling and trying to actually, you know, ensure that people are voluntarily, you know, able to pay, then we have various tools that we can actually use to enforce. One has to be that the law says that if you look at the Revenue Administration Act, that talks about name and shame. Commissioner General can do that. 2, you can be prosecuted. 3, we can use what we call a garnishi, you know, orders, and then we can use restraining orders as well. These are all tools at the mercy of the Commissioner General, you know, to use to ensure that.
At the start of the conversation, we're just talking about 80.2 billion, which is your target. But last year, 80.3. But last year, we know that you met your target. How much did you raise last year?
Last year we got about 57.4 billion. 57.4 billion. Yeah, that was how much we collected, by the grace of God.
and that exceeded the target?
Yes, exactly.
So the target was?
About 57.1 billion. Are you getting it? Yeah. So at least it was...
Was it that easy raising it? Because you're making it look very...
Oh, I wouldn't say it was easy. In fact, we had to work hard. If you see the GRA staff walking under the blazing sun, it is not easy. We have our custom officers who work at, you know, the borders. You get it? Exposed to all vagaries of weather. It is just not easy collecting taxes. You get it? So if we are able to do that, then it tells you the amount of effort is that okay that we have put in to actually be able to raise this.
We read recently in the papers that you are embarking on a data collection exercise. How far with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to tax collection, it's a process. We are always collecting. Are you getting it? Yeah, we don't have a situation where we have a break. So we had to actually pick some data or collect data in respect of properties. Now, let me just hasten to say that when it comes to property taxation, it is not something new. It is something that has been in our laws and we have been enforcing it. Just that the compliance level at a point was going down. So we needed to just go back to the basis. Look at the number of properties, because day in and day out, people are putting up, you know, houses. If it is residential, is that okay? If it is residential, the law it is. So we need to know or to have data, is that okay, to be able to actually estimate how much we are going to get and work, you know, towards it. So it's not something new. We have been doing it. Just that there have been some kind of, if you like, publicity, you know, around it. Yeah. Are you getting it? Yeah. We need to let people actually follow whatever we are doing.
You feel it's a concerted effort. It needs to go hand in hand. People need to voluntarily. You don't always have to chase them to pay, to make their obligations.
You see, trust me, when it comes to tax payment, nobody should chase you. Because if you really value the peace, are you getting it, that we are enjoying as a country, if you value the free essentials, if you value, you know, the
government policy,
exactly, you get it. Nobody will tell you that paying taxes is actually mandatory, and it is something that we should do it.
There are other activities at the GRA. Even we understand that you're reviewing the tin tax identification number and doing some integration with GUI and all of that. What has been the status of that project?
Yeah, so government wanted some kind of a synchronization, you know, with the tin, as against the national ID, you know, cards.
Right.
So there was a need to actually, you know, sort of migrate persons who are actually on the Ghana card and are not, registered for the tax identification number. Now, you see, when we started with this tax identification number, we expected a lot of Ghanaians to respond, but the response was actually not, so encouraging. But a lot of people rather, are you getting it, opted for the Ghana card. So with the synchronization, we have been able to actually get a number that is not actually, on our system. Are you getting it? So about 14, all the data, the number was about 14.7.
So it makes it easier to track.
Yes. So the 14.7, we have identified about 12. Are you getting it? Who are not on our database. So we are trying to actually look at them, to be sure that we are able to get, those who are income earners and are not filing. Remember, the Commission has a duty to identify and to promote compliance. Right. So that is exactly.
And has this integration exercise helped to increase your revenue?
Integration?
Yes, the team, the system you're talking about now. Has it helped to increase?
Well, potentially it will, because come to think about it, this number that I'm talking about 12, if we are able to get about 10, are you getting it, who are income earners and potentially are not paying and will pay.
Right.
You get it? Yeah. Then certainly we should be able to increase the number. Are you getting it? Right. Yeah.
Let's talk about the higher net worth category of persons. There are many others who don't understand that system. When we talk about these categories of people, who are we referring to, and how does the GRA deal with them?
Yeah, you see, when it comes to taxation, it is actually based on income. Is that okay? The government will take so much from the rich, a little from the poor, and subsidize for the good of all. Now we have certain persons based on their social standing. Are you getting it? The kind of activities that they do. It doesn't actually commensurate with the taxes that they pay. Are you getting it? Yeah, so that is how come that unit has been established within the GRA body. To identify such persons, try to look at what they have filed and see their contributions to society and see whether there's actually some kind of synchronization. If it is not, then you try to question. You see, the point is that you are trying to look for incomes that probably are hidden. Are you getting it? Let me just give you a typical example. If let's say you are not a taxpayer, we don't see you pay taxes, to any GRA office. Then all of a sudden you are able to donate a vehicle. Are you getting it? To a body or to a church or to some other organization. That tells us clearly that you are an income earner. So it behoves us to look for you, sit down with you, try to identify your source of income. Are you getting it? I know people will just say, oh no, the income is not generated by myself, but it's actually a gift. But we know gift is subject to tax. So these are some of the things. So the high net worth individuals essentially are persons who are actually in the, if you like, yes.
They earn more.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Aristocratic, class. Is that okay? We want to identify them and see whether they pay the proper
But they shouldn't be the only focus. How about the professional bodies as well? How are you tracking and monitoring?
Well, there are some persons in the professional bodies who are also in the high net worth category. Are you getting it? So the professional bodies, yes, everybody is required, everybody. And every person is required to pay their taxes. So if for any reason you are a professional, you belong to a body and you are not paying taxes, we have to actually ensure that you pay your taxes.
How are their members having to pay their license or taxes as well?
Okay, so they are supposed to pay taxes just like any other person. But when it comes to renewal of their license, the law says that you cannot do that until you have what they call a tax clearance certificate.
Okay, so they need the clearance.
Yeah, exactly, to be able to do that. Right. But some of the bodies are actually not complying. And I can assure you that Commissioner General has started sustained education. Is that okay? But I think there's a limit to what he would want to do. Is that okay? Right. And again, given that we have what we call amnesty, we expect that those who are not actually paid up can take advantage. But let me just say that, if you are a body charged with the responsibility of inspecting tax clearance certificate before licenses are issued or are renewed, and you renege in that responsibility, you are actually not helping the nation. So let's look at that.
Is giving and betting going to be taxed?
It has always been taxed. I'm sure you are looking at our the e-commerce plus the gaming area that we are looking at. It has always been taxed. But you see, we have non-resident persons that are actually not resident in Ghana, who are making or any income in Ghana through betting. Is that okay? So there are those we are actually targeting. But if you are a better in Ghana here, you are supposed to earn income. The law says that once you are a resident person, all income that is your global income really should be subject to tax in Ghana. So you see that here, resident person. Even if you go outside the country and you earn income, you are supposed to actually pay your taxes in Ghana. So we don't have a problem when it comes to those who do betting in Ghana. But the challenge has to do with the non-resident persons who are actually providing services here through betting and are making income and they are not paying. Right. That is what the focus, is really.
The subject of e-levy, how ready are you as the GRA to implement the e-levy when it is passed by Parliament? Yeah,
before we even come to the e-levy, let me just step back and talk about this e-commerce. Yeah. Yesterday, the Commission General actually launched the digital, portal for the e-commerce. And this morning, I think I heard on some, news, in some news, that GRA is taxing social network or something. Okay. Social. I'm trying to. You
mean social media platform?
Social media platform. Okay. In fact, that is not the essence. That is not what the focus is. We are looking at persons who are non-resident and are doing business in Ghana. Is that okay? If you listen to the Commissioner General yesterday, he was talking about this Amazon, he was talking about Netflix, he was talking about, you name them, Alibaba and what have you. They are doing business in Ghana. They are earning income in Ghana.
We're trading.
So we need to, exactly. We need to get them. And he also mentioned that the Bank of Ghana is collaborating with GRA to ensure that we are able to actually get what is due us as a nation. Now let's come to the e-levy. Yeah. For the e-levy, let me just say that it is actually something that government intends to get it, passed. But for now, it is not passed, so it will be very difficult for me to actually talk about it. But what it is that for us in GRA, we have started looking at our systems. Are you getting? Assuming e-levy is passed today, are you getting? And we are given the mandate to collect. Why not? We can't actually just sit down unconcerned. So we are trying to understand it just as any other person. We are trying to look at how we are going to collect it, who is going to collect it, how it is supposed to be collected, when it is supposed to be collected, all those things. So when the law is passed, then we are not actually caught in the web in terms of lack of preparation.
Now, what role will prosecution actually play to check tax evasion?
Let me just say that our lawyers have laid their boots to actually ensure that recalcitrant taxpayers are prosecuted. We are not going to prosecute taxpayers. Let me put it that way. We are going to prosecute recalcitrant taxpayers. Taxpayers who really have, have failed to pay our taxes. We know they are capable of paying, but they are not paying. We have to actually come after you through prosecution. So the prosecution unit in GRA has been set up, highly fueled, waiting to actually do its work. And of course, I'm sure you have heard some few cases that are in court. You get it?
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some claims out there that even your officers are complicit in this. How are you going to address that situation where some of your officers allegedly help other businesses to evade taxes?
No, in fact, as an organization, we have a code of ethics. Is that okay? And what the Commissioner has done is that he has actually asked that everybody in GRA should be sufficiently educated about the content of the code of ethics. So if you go against the code of ethics, you are going to be sanctioned. The sanctions are very, very clear. Having said that, there are, to aid, or to ensure that taxpayers actually evade tax, it's a crime. So apart from the internal processes, Commissioner will also hand it over to the persons who are in charge of crime to ensure that they deal with you. So I'm not sure it is something that the Commissioner would want to actually tolerate.
Right. Yeah. We need to go, but your word to Ghanaians out there.
Yeah, to just say that the Ghana Revenue Authority is your partner in development. We are not here to harass businesses. We are here to ensure that whatever income that you earned, you pay. So let's pay to build a better Ghana for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic, now for joining us here on The Pulse. When we return, we'll talk about the Ghana month. Stay with us here on the JoyNews channel. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. The Majority Leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, says he will, from next week, actually communicate to the House the date for the consideration of the controversial e-levy. According to the leader of government business, government is still doing consultations, and a date will be announced shortly after the public engagement. He said this whilst presenting the business statement for next week. Let's now take you live to Parliament now. Parker Wilson is on phone joining us with the latest. So Parker, what more do we know about what will happen next week when the bill is presented to the House?
So, Blessed, Parliament, it's a place where they work with procedures, so they don't spring surprises and they don't introduce things without the knowledge of the MP. So for every week, they try to communicate to the MP what they should expect from the chamber. And what we know is that next week, based on some of these procedures, the leader of the House, that is the majority leader and the leader of government business, will announce the date for the consideration of the e-levy. Now, this is to ensure that the MPs get themselves ready for that particular debate. And I must say that the NDC MPs have been, one way or the other, try to mock the NPP MPs for running away from their own e-levy. And so there was an assurance from the majority leader that there is a public hearing, the town hall meeting that they have, but the consultations are still ongoing. So they are just about ending the consultation, wrapping up with the consultation, and that is when they have been able to now determine a specific date for the consideration of the e-levy. So next week it is the expectation that the majority leader will communicate to the House exactly when members of Parliament will congregate to debate the controversial e-levy. But he is certain that by the end of this first meeting, the House will debate, or they will table the e-levy before the House for them to debate. But I must say that the e-levy hasn't been withdrawn from Parliament. The e-levy bill is still in Parliament. What the government seeks to do is to amend the rate, the charge from 1.75% to 1.5%. So that is the amendment that we know that government will be amended for the e-levy. So we are expecting that next week, when he comes to the House, he will give us a date for the consideration of the e-levy.
And what's minority saying about this?
Well, they didn't really have any concern about it because for the last 3 weeks now, they've been raising concerns about why the business statement for the week is silent on the e-levy. And so it was a bit of refreshing to them when the majority leader finally said that next week he will communicate to the House when they will be taking the e-levy. So they are well prepared, but their position still remain unchanged that if they introduce the e-levy, they will still vote massively against the levy.
And how about the numbers in Parliament?
Well, as we know, the Supreme Court has ruled, paving way for whoever sits in the chair, be it the First and Deputy Speaker of Parliament, or even any member who mounts to the chair, to equally partake in the vote during the consideration of the e-levy and other matters. But the only challenge for the NPP now is they do not have two of their members around. It is the expectation of the NPP caucus that by the time they introduce the e-levy before the House, Tomekwabeja MP, Sarah Joasafo, should be around, and one of their members who we know well will also be around, the chieftaincy minister. We are told that he is not well, he's indisposed at the moment. So that'll be the challenge. And the law is clear that when a motion is, there's a tie, the motion is lost. So if it's 137, if the NDC manages to get their 137 in the chamber and vote in the negative, and MPP also gets their 137, including the deputy speaker who will be voting in this debate or this decision making on the e-levy, they also have 137. And that means the motion has been lost. They would have to go back and come back again with the e-levy. So it will be very quite challenging if Ajosafo is not around and Kojokum is also not present to partake in this exercise.
What more has been happening in the House?
Just before Parliament adjourned for next week, there was a bit of a back and forth. I mean, tempers were a bit high near war of words between the Member of Parliament for Tamale North constituency and the Supreme MP, Eugene Bachi MP. And basically because the Tamale North MP, being an NDC MP, had raised concerns about quorum at some point within the meeting. Around 1:11 p.m., he raised concerns about lack of quorum to transact business. And per the standard orders, if you read Order 48.3, it is clear that after a member raises the issue of quorum, the Speaker would have to give a 10-minute interval for the bell to be rung for members of the House to congregate in the chamber or converge in the chamber. Unfortunately, close to about 50 minutes, the First Speaker had not ruled on the matter of the quorum. But at the time, the Roads Minister was in the chamber answering some questions from the Tolon MP. But the Tamale North MP, Alhassan Sweeney, sought to obstruct and indicate to the House that I have raised the matter of quorum. And for the past 40 to 50 minutes, the Speaker hasn't ruled. That a bit angered the Subin MP, who equally engaged in an exchange of words between him and the Tamale North MP. In fact, the Speaker had to instruct them to sit down. They were far apart from each other and throwing, the words, I mean, name calling and all of that. And it was a very unhealthy situation, quite a nasty situation. And the MPs who contributed after asked the Subin MP to withdraw. However, he didn't withdraw some of the words he used on the Tamale North MP. So the Tamale North MP was now forced to stage a walkout. He actually boycotted the proceedings and left the chamber just because he's been ignored by the Speaker. And so this went on for a little over an hour.
All right.
After the Speaker realized that probably the MPs have asked all the questions they have to ask, then he decided to again sit for the day.
We'll be on the lookout for what happens next week. Parker Wilson giving us the latest from Parliament back here at Multimedia. The final funeral rites for the late Joy Brandt's manager of the Multimedia Group, Elvis Kokukwashi, comes off tomorrow, March 12th, at the forecourt of the State House. Elvis Kwashi, popularly called the real boss, passed on the 29th of December 2021 at the University of Ghana Medical Center after a short illness. He is survived by a wife and 3 children. Family, colleagues and friends will be gathering at the forecourt of the State House tomorrow to bid him farewell. Ahead of that event, here's a recap of a vigil held in the memory of Elvis Kwashi Wednesday at his East Legon residence.
Cheers to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back you. Do 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 do. Memories bring back you.
I'm reading from Romans chapter 14, the verse number 7 and the verse number 8. Romans 14, verse 7 and the verse number 8. And I read from the New King James. He says that we do not live for ourselves, he was writing this epistle to Christians. He said that you don't live for yourselves. You must understand that as a believer, you are bought with a price. Christ paid the price for your redemption. He paid the price for your salvation. And so Paul is telling us that we must remember that we don't live for ourselves. And then he says that we don't also die for ourselves. Tonight, once again, we're grateful. Tonight, once again, we say that thank you. Thank you for the life of our brother, Elvis. Thank you for bringing him to this world. Thank you for the impact that you allowed his life to bring on the face of the earth. Thank you for his family. Thank you for the children. Lord, in all this, we are saying that thank you.
On behalf of the Bonodi, Quarry and allied families, I just want us to understand and know that we have just started the funeral from this very evening. And on Friday, there will be no wakekeeping. There will be no wakekeeping on Friday. And on Saturday, on the 12th of March, by 8 o'clock in the morning, we are all going to gather at the forecourt of the State House to start the funeral proceedings. And after the church service is over, at the forecourt of the State House, the body will be conveyed to his hometown at Sarame. And on Sunday, the 13th of March, 2022, there will be a memorial Thanksgiving service at the Church of Pentecost Church at Matayeko English Assembly. And the church starts at 8 a.m. Even though it starts at 7 a.m., the family members might be expected to be there latest by 8 a.m.
What I told God at the beginning of the year is that nobody under my watch should die. And I thank God that on the 23rd of December, everybody is alive.
Elvis Kashi. Whoa.
Can we do the review?
What made Elvis successful is his interest in his people. Because the many discussions we've had has always not been about him. It's been about his people who must be taken care of. And that runs true. He's someone who will not come to management and make a request for himself. Every time is about one intent that he thinks is offering value. He must be regularized. It is about this particular guy who is devoting himself to the work, and he must be adequately remunerated. And our debates and our discussions have always hovered around do something good for my people, and once they are happy, they will work and deliver for me. And that is one thing I will always remember him for.
He was always concerned about the welfare of the guys, so he would call you and say, you know how he talks, Charlie, yeah, so I hear this guy is sick, have you gone to visit him? And he was always concerned that in a big organization like this, there was always the danger of people being so consumed in the work that they forgot about the human side of things. So he would always ask that, this member of the team seems to be facing this maybe financial trouble. How do we explore helping him? It wasn't part of the job.
was a very quiet, laid-back person, but he exhibited some traits, leadership traits. And so I was not surprised that, eventually he led the newsroom. One of those traits was his empathy for people. He was a very empathetic person, and I always used to tell him that, listen, this job, there are lots of people with egos, and in managing, you need to have a big heart to manage egos. And I saw that thing, it came to him naturally, and I thought that his passion for the job coupled with this empathy that he was demonstrating, I thought was the right combination for anybody leading this newsroom.
He had joined the group not long ago, but he still managed to travel all the way from wherever he was to Cape Coast to join me to celebrate that day. And for me, it was very good. Occasionally, he will call you, Richard, how is your beautiful wife doing? How are the kids doing? And all of that. And for me, to get someone like him to extend some kind of relationship beyond the work, you always will agree on one particular issue, but after that you get back to the normal ways. And so I feel that we've lost a great person, someone who was an tomorrow you may do something and then he will send you a text.
We think gets fit every time, and he is the one who is inspiring you and urging you on all the time. Nothing brings him down, and there's not a problem you will tell him that he won't encourage you to move on. So that, fit person, he was so sick that he couldn't even talk to me. And this is somebody I looked up to. I called him a senior brother because I could tell him everything, and we spoke a lot. In fact, outside the job, he will call me, lengthy chat, long hours on various issues, and sometimes as little as I am in this job, he will call me and be seeking advice from me on certain things, and it was so refreshing. Still in denial until maybe tomorrow when I see him.
There is this part that I have not shared before, and I've talked a lot about Elvis EL. So today I'll share that part. My husband and I, and the update. He made calls and tried to resolve the matter for me. It's none of his business to want to resolve so many people. Elvis was a friend. Elvis didn't want to be seen as the manager, the boss, and that is why he's a real boss, because he gets down to your level to work with you, and he knows how to make you ease into what you do. And when Elvis says, "My eyes are on you," Elvis will not leave you until he's done. We are live, and then you'll be doing "My eyes are on you." So everything you do, he's watching you. And when you are done, sometimes immediately you are done, if it goes well, he'll commend you and shout and make all the noise. If it doesn't go well, he'll give it to you there and then.
Elvis was special. Elvis was a friend. Elvis was a great leader and a boss. And I think that what I'll remember, I'm not trying to, not my national service, sorry, internship, and I'm going to do my national service as a teaching assistant at GIJ. And I was done with my national service, and I was hoping to go back to school. So I was at home when I received a call that, "Oh, there's a new boss around here. He'd like to meet you." And I met because, at that time we were not converged. So I was doing my internship with TV, and I had crossed over to radio to do something. There was this man it was after the midday news, and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
You do the review, I was like, hey, why is this guy so strict? And hey, what's happening here? It looked like, you know, you were in a court or something, and you know. So I didn't have a relationship with him, and I was like, I'm not sure I can work with this guy. He's too strict. But it's not. He's not here, and I always say, Elvis, this is not what we planned. You know, it's not what we planned. This is not. This shouldn't be it. You know, there were so many projects, so many things. You know, and I haven't been at work, so.
Bernice, thank you.
I'm not quite sure what I can do in 40 seconds because Elvis is somebody who is very special, and then also I wish that I had him. Ever since that we lost Elvis, I've also lost my voice. I remember I used to do like say 60, 70 stories a month. Since we lost Elvis, that motivation is no more. I was counting the number of stories that I did at the last month, which was about 5, 6 stories. And for me, Elvis is a pillar. He used to call me the top striker. And so Elvis is somebody who motivates me. Elvis is a pillar, and Elvis is a real boss. I will
Thank you. And made it clear to me how proud he was about what I did. And it wasn't just words. Few days after I came to the office and I met Hannah, and she told me, wow, have you seen what Elvis had done for you? I said, no. He said, go to the newsroom. I entered the newsroom, and my picture, there was a plaque of Latif in the newsroom. And for me, that was a pat in the back, and that has kept me going. He celebrated me. I mean, you know, the Joy newsroom is made up of the best of the best. And for him to celebrate you, I mean, for me, it's more than winning a GJA awards. Being celebrated by no other than Elvis Kokukwashi in the Joy newsroom, getting a plaque of you, I mean.
Elvis is the best leader that I think he's one of the best leaders I have met all my life. He's just a leader. This is why I say so. He's strict and he's sweet at the same time. So when things go right, this is a typical Elvis for you. Aisha bebe, Aisha my cappuccino, Aisha my corona jab, and then I'll respond, EL my bebe. I mean, that's how it's always been.
Elvis was definitely a leader and a father at the same time. I mean, he professionally would deal with you, but beyond the working relationship, he wanted something more. He wanted to know what was going on in your life, how you were growing as a person, and how your private life was doing, and you could confide in him. I remember that after some time working with him, I thought he was too tough. I thought he was stretching me, and I just didn't understand why he kept, you know, hammering on one thing over and over. So I sort of withdrew from him. But he noticed, and he called me back and said, why are you avoiding me? And we had to talk things over, and the relationship changed from there.
Elvis will call, and before speaking about job-related matters with you, first checks on you, your family, and make sure you are okay. When you have even done something and you see his call, he will go on a milder tone, Kwejo, how are you? Then he will go like, Charlie, what's happening? You are my boss. You are one of the key members of the team. So if you are well, I'm well. Before he spills the beans on why he even called you. He's someone who checks on you and would query you on why you don't call him or check on him. He will go like, Charlie, I'm always here. If there is anything worrying you and your team members, let me know and I will deal with it. I'd have loved to see Elvis retire, still serving as a coach to many. My colleagues and I in the regions would sorely miss him. We still know he still lives, even though he's
won with plenty award, and we have a platform, our GIJ 97 platform. And so Randy, who is a friend of ours, both ways, put this picture on the platform. And everybody was congratulating Elvis, myself included. And in his response to my comment, he said, "Thank you, my boss, you trained me well." So I called him on the side and I said, "Charlie, you're a grown man, you're a big man now. Stop saying this boss thing." And he said, "Ashanti, that is true," and he burst out laughing. You know, for me, I think it's that humility. And the lessons I'm learning now, I'm a leader, and I've been a leader for the most part of my life. I'm a, for want of a better expression, very tough leader. And I'm sure that you would have all heard the stories. Even just yesterday, I was speaking to Kwesi, and he asked me, "So what did you do to this man that he always kept calling you boss, boss, boss?" And I remember that from that conversation, he said that sometimes he would say to the news team, "Are you sure that you would do this if Matilda were here?" But I think for me, it's the humility and also the humaneness of his leadership. And that's something that, as I've heard people chronicle from the newsroom and even outside of the newsroom, makes me want to do better.
It's a really difficult time. I'm really sad about what has happened, but I guess we cannot change what has happened, so we have to face up to it. I met Elvis when I was employed with him and Araba Kumsen in 2005, but I joined earlier. I joined in December, and then Araba and Elvis came in January. So on a full scale, I think we've worked together for close to 12 years. And in between, he left to pursue other interests after being with us for about a year and a half. We still kept in touch because he was a manager at MetLife. And he was we became friends. I must admit, when we initially met, we didn't like each other. He felt I was too aggressive, pushy, and full of myself. I also felt that he underestimated me, and generally I'm the type that you make a mistake if you underestimate me. I will definitely make an effort to change that.
True story.
So we were on the same weekend team, and much as we were peers, I always ended up, in a sense, being a dominant figure. But in time, all of that, eased up, and we just became good working friends and colleagues. And it was in 2010, I think, when Matilda decided to leave, that we were left orphaned, so to speak, because it was unclear who was going to lead the team for JoyNews. Atu Kwamena was acting at the time, but the sense we got from Atu was he didn't want to do it long term. So I was asked if I had anyone in mind. And I said, well, at this point, the newsroom needed somebody who would be a manager, who would provide guidance, not somebody who would be a thoroughbred operations person. And so I asked him if he would be interested in the role. And he said, well, he'll think about it. So I recommended the name to Ichikwam. And that's how he came back later on in 2010. And that's been the journey since. And he'd become a phenomenal leader. He was a great friend and colleague. He was a mentor to many of us. I also, in a leadership position, when I left multimedia in 2017, I became a manager in a corporate entity. I currently am a manager in my new organization, Media General. There's nothing that I do as a manager that is not because of Elvis. I learned a lot from him. And
he provided a certain template of what a good leader should be. And I've tried as much as possible to live up to that. A lot of the time I ask myself when I'm taking a decision, would he do it this way, or how would he expect me to do this? Even in my engagements with colleagues, interns, everyone in our newsroom, I realized that I cannot be the Jifa or act like the Jifa I was probably 15 years ago. I probably would act more likely like the newer leader, and those elements are things that I learned from Elvis.
Words are not enough to explain how we feel right now. It's a very difficult moment. We pray that the good Lord keep you for us. Rest well, the real boss. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of The Pulse. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. We have more stories for you there. My name is Blessed Sugan. We'll see you next time.